Hey guys, welcome back to Confusing Bits. I'm Corey, and today we're going to talk about No Rules Rules, Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention by Reed Hastings and Erin Meyer. So yes, this is another one of the productivity books or the kind of corpo executive power books. The or the I don't know what they call it, the hustle culture books or whatever. This is typical executive reading book, you would think, but it's too long. Didn't read. This is a great book. This is not your typical executive reading, light reading book. This is actual everything in here has actionable. Is to the point and actionable. I loved it. It was great, and it kind of really speaks to the culture that he's espousing in here. Is the book is a demonstration of the culture that he's talking about. So yeah, let's do a blurb right quick. I don't know if you guys let me know if you like the blurbs or not. I like the blurbs, but it lets me fill out the time. But if you don't like the blurbs, just let me know. So let's just do a quick quote here. It said, "I had the privilege of learning from Reed personally and studying the Netflix culture. The insights in this book are invaluable to anyone trying to create and sustain organizational culture." Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, and there's a bunch of more. Lots of people praising this book. Let's do the little first little blurb here. There has never been a company like never before been a company like Netflix. It has led nothing short of a revolution in the entertainment industries, generating billions of dollars in annual revenue while capturing the imagination of hundreds of millions of people over 190 countries. But to reach those great heights, Netflix was launched in 1998 as an online DVD rental service, has had to reinvent itself over and over. And this type of unprecedented flexibility would have been impossible without the counterintuitive, radical management principles that co-founder Reed Hastings established from the very beginning. Hastings rejected the conventional wisdom under which other companies operated and defied tradition instead build a culture focused on freedom and responsibility, one that has allowed Netflix to adapt and innovate to its needs as the needs of its members and the world have simultaneously been transformed. And it continues. So yeah, who is Reed Hastings? Reed Hastings is an entrepreneur who has revolutionized entertainment since co-founding Netflix in 1997, serving as its chairman and CEO since 1999. His first company, Pure Software, was launched in 1991 and was acquired just before Netflix launched. Hastings served as the California State Board of Education from 2000 to 2004 as an active educational philanthropist. He sat on the board of several educational organizations, including Dreambox Learning, KIPP Foundation, and Para Institute BA from Bowdoin College in 1983, and MScs in Artificial Intelligence from Stanford in 1988. Between Bowdoin and Stanford, Hastings served in the Peace Corps as a volunteer teacher in South Africa. Very interesting fellow. Erin Meyer is the author of The Culture Map, Breaking Through the Invisible Boundaries of Global Business, and a professor at INSEAD, one of the world's leading international business schools. Her work has appeared in Harvard Business Review, the New York Times, and Forbes. In 2019, Meyer was selected by the top 50 for the 50 most influential business thinkers in the world. She received an MBA from INSEAD. In 2004, she currently lives in Paris, France. In 1994 and 1995, Meyer also served in Peace Corps as a volunteer teacher in Southern Africa. Visit blah, 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 blah. So there are moments where they slip into the corporate speak. Some of this, they start talking about some of the business decisions and things, and they're talking like really high level, conceptual level, and I'm like, that is not how businesses actually work. That's just what's the word for it? That's just self-congratulatory language that just doesn't mean anything. So there is a little bit of that, but most of it is meats and potatoes. So with that, let me. At its core, it talks about building your business around expertise. If you build your business around expertise, then there's a whole bunch of things that you no longer have to do. You can let people have freedom to make decisions, including like purchasing decisions without approvals and stuff like that, because you're hiring high quality experts and holding them accountable. So you don't have to add, sign this form in triplicate and it sends up to 3 different levels and then it takes a week to return. And you don't have to, because that's how businesses get slow, and that's how they become become unable to adapt, is all of this process and stuff like that. So the core thesis of the book is hire experts. If you're going to hire engineers, give them a business problem, hire the best engineers, point them at the problem, and just let them build the solution, and trust them to do their job, and get out of their way as much as possible. Same thing if you have like product managers or product owners, people who are coming up with the new features and stuff that they need to come up with. Let them go find those new product features in new markets and stuff that they want to appeal to. Let them go research that. Let them go try and do their experiments, and without a bunch of approvals. So it's really about removing the barriers from your typical large organization. Hire really high quality folk. If you find that someone's not high quality, get rid of them as soon as possible. Severance package, do it as kindly as possible to get rid of them, so that they don't weigh down the rest of the organization, and make sure you're compensating your best employees at the top of the market, so they have nowhere else to go. You're giving them the most money that they can make. They're not going anywhere. So you're retaining your highest talent, and you do that, and you're able to cut out a whole bunch of extra bureaucracy. You're not having to pay 20 different levels of middle management. So you could pay top of the market because you're not paying all these extra other people that normally other organizations have to introduce to hold that bureaucratic control. Now, I don't know if that's the way Netflix works nowadays. This was released in 2020. I watched a dude on Twitch and YouTube named the Primogen, and he's famously a Netflix engineer, and who talked about it all the time. Netflix, by the way. And he says all the time that he liked old Netflix better than current Netflix, and I think that kind of speaks to that the culture has changed. It's gotten big and unwieldy, and the transparency and the autonomy isn't quite what it was back in the day. He talked about several different anecdotes. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't work at Netflix, but I can understand that that's a hard thing to maintain, because if you've ever worked in any organization and you have tried to fight against the need for bureaucracy, it seems like that's everyone's go-to. Anytime there's a problem, well, let's just add that to a new policy. Suddenly the solution to everything is a new policy, a new procedure, a new routine, a new something or other that they have to layer up on it. It just builds and builds and builds, because that's, for whatever reason, that's many people's default thing, instead of saying, okay, well, this is an isolated incident. Let's see if we can either prevent it entirely without adding process, or can we just, be adults here and realize, hey, let's just handle this as a one-off thing, and making intelligent decisions as you go without having to, for instance, like you got to submit a form to say you want to do a talk. You've got to submit a form to get to host a talk at some conference or something like that. You want to give a talk at some conference. Well, you want to get reimbursed, so you got to go get approval for the talk, and then they want to know what the talk's going to about. Maybe you don't know what the talk's going to be about, and then by the time you get all that done and it goes through the approval process, maybe it's too long. The deadline for submissions is gone, and so now the whole thing, it was a bunch of wasted effort on everybody's part because everything took too long. we've all been there, right? And that's what this book is about, is getting rid of that by using experts. So let's just look at the chapters. The chapters are actually very neatly aligned to every single point. So it talks about, again, first build up talent density. So this is all about hire high quality people. Don't just get bodies, get the highest quality people that you absolutely can. So that, and maintain that. If somebody is not operating up to snuff, you need to get rid of them as quickly as possible, because they're going to be dragging everyone down. You all hear about the coworkers not just dragging their feet, they're actively making things worse for the other people. Or in another, alternatively, they're also an example to other employees that say, hey, this standard of work is acceptable. So that's, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, it not only is it slowing you down, that workers themselves have lower productivity, but they're actually going to, over the long term, slow everybody else down, because they could see, hey, this is the level of work that is acceptable in this organization. So there's that. And then there's increased candor. Say what you really think. I'm lucky that the company that I work for, that's one of the core principles, and it seems to be a fairly truthful principle that we practice candor, and that is, say the uncomfortable thing. Even, in the military, we call that, I don't know, we call it candor now. I see candor this, candor that, candor this, all in a bunch of companies nowadays. In the Marines, we call that tact. Like, they taught you that in boot camp, tact, because you have a strict hierarchy command, so you can't talk back to your senior, but you need to give that feedback that something's not right. You still need to be able to tell your superior that they're wrong, and they need to, stop being an asshole in some way that is acceptable, and that's called tact. So somehow that has turned into candor in the corporate world, but that's point number 2. So hire good people. 2, be candor, like be really wildly, have wild candors. Like, hey, I don't think this project's going to work. Don't just rah cheerlead every single project. Hey, maybe this not working. These are the reasons why I think it's not working. So you can address those concerns. But if there's this culture of, hey, let's just be all positive all the time, then we don't talk about the negative things that could happen. And then the project fails because we didn't account for the things that could help. Another book that I can't remember which book it was. I might remember as I'm talking, but that was the key takeaway I took from the book. Was the one key idea I took from the book was the pre-mortem, the concept of pre-mortem, where you say you get, like, you're about to kick off the project. It's right before final approval, right after final approval. It's like, and you sit down, you have a meeting with the whole team, and you say, hey, all right, we all agree that we want to do this thing, but let's just for exercise sake, everybody go around and mention something that you think could absolutely destroy this project, and just speak it out loud. So we all verbalize everything that could go wrong, and maybe somebody mentioned something that's a critical error that, for whatever reason, maybe they were scared to say something, maybe it was the wrong time, or maybe they just got caught up in the hype themselves. You need a little bit of the rational moment that you're having right now. You say, oh, wait, we never actually, I don't know, paid our credit card bill, so this whole thing's going to fail. That's a stupid example. Do you get what I'm talking about? Some things can just, like, cripple the project, like, even before, that you should have known at the beginning, but it was never verbalized, and thus, everybody wanted to be, because everybody wants to be positive. Everybody wants to be a part of the team. Everybody wants to support what everybody else, they think everybody else wants to do. So there's kind of like a group think that happens, a group think positivity that can happen in projects that's important to be very realistic about. So to me, that's the value of candor, is making sure that you have you're speaking these things so they can be dealt with. It's not about being negative. It's just so, hey, let's look out for this thing. It's not being negative, Nancy. Then, of course, step 3 is now begin removing controls. So that's like removing a vacation policy, removing travel and expense approval. So it talks about, say, hey, you can take as many vacations a days as you need, but obviously you still have a team that that you're part of, that you need to be supporting, and you need to carry your weight. So there's always that, any responsible employee is going to say, hey, I can't, this is the example is that one of the examples they mentioned in here was like tax season. An accountant taking off in like January for like 4 weeks. That is not responsible. That's not a responsible vacation call, because obviously accountants, that's when they're doing all the tax prep that's like 90% of their work for the entire year is being done the January and February and March, right? So that is the worst time to be taking a vacation, especially 4 weeks of vacation. That's just an example of like being responsible about, letting the employees be responsible about the vacation, and along with candor, allowing the other employees to go, you're really going to take vacation in January in the middle of tax season. That's, there's two different ways you could that example shows how these two different policies help out, right? Is you let people be responsible, and the candor helps keep people accountable. Removing travel and expense approvals. I kind of mentioned the example before of letting somebody. Well, no, I didn't mention that, but I think they mentioned one time that the travel and expense part, spend money in it comes down to like they were trying to figure out how to put it in a sentence. The policy for spending approvals, they don't do approval process. The policy is spend money in the best interest of Netflix. That's like don't be a penny pincher if you're a penny pincher, because they tried that. Like somebody's spending money. They're very miserly with their money, so they wouldn't spend appropriate amounts of money for like a client or event or something like that. And then there were other people who were very extravagant spenders. They were like getting like first class tickets or whatever, and the fanciest rooms, and buying these fancy dinners and stuff like that. And that was wildly inappropriate as well, so the policy, it talks about that somewhat in depth about removing the expense policy. Yeah. So that's the first section of the book, and that's basically the thesis, the core thesis of the book. That's the algorithm. Like build up talent density, increase candor, remove controls. That's your iterative loop. Like anytime you can increase talent density, either by getting rid of your weaker employees with severance or whatever, or paying top of market. That's all part of building talent density, and then increasing candor is obviously adding more and more feedback and candor into whatever it is that you're doing. And then, of course, removing control. So I think that's the core loop. But, of course, it keeps going. Talks about more things about specifically about why to pay top of personal market for someone. It talks about candor. It talks about actually opening up the books. So there was stories about the internal financial details that people who were they opened those up to like in internal documentation, like the financials, even before they were released to the public. They would open up the books that talks about that. Now release more controls, no decision making approvals. They don't open up the books in normal companies because people could buy stocks. They could get accused of like insider trading and stuff like that if they acted on that or whatever. And so a lot of companies, they wouldn't be liable. It's the person who insider traded is the person who will get in trouble. It's not the company because even if there was like accountant has to have information about that, right? The personal the financial statements and stuff like that. So it's always the person responsible for, insider trading that is at fault. It's never the company fault. Yet a lot of companies still don't share their internal details to prevent their own employees from breaking the law. And so Netflix kind of turned that on its head. That look, if you people are not going to break the law, willingly, unless and there's laws against that, right? It's like they'll pay the consequences, But so yeah, and then it says release more controls, no decision making approvals needed, and it goes more. It kind of elaborates more on removing more and more decision making, gatekeeping stuff that goes on with approvals and stuff. Section 3, techniques to reinforce culture of freedom and responsibilities. Again, this is more refinement. So talk about the keeper test, like how how much should you pay? How do you kind of determine like top of market, or like how much, if somebody's wanting to leave and you want to keep them, how much would you pay to keep them? Well, how much would you pay to like poach them from another company? That's how much you should be that's how much you should be paying them. That's kind of the point of that. Talked about circle of feedback. Let's talk about a process that they added for feedback, where they do this kind of like all of their peers give feedback to a certain person. I don't know. I don't remember exactly the details for that, but there was like a group feedback kind of candor thing, and it talked about it being kind of a tricky process, and it took them a little while to refine how it works. And then eliminate most controls. Lead with context, not control. So yeah, that's kind of the pentultimate of giving employees freedom. So it just elaborates further, and then it talks about when they went global. Netflix went global. But this is a great book. Have been talking about it entirely too long, 20 minutes, but it is well worth you read. Well, this is the type of company that I want to work for at all times. So this is the thing that I'm looking for in any company that I work for is I usually work for small companies, and I usually work for small companies because they don't have a bunch of bureaucracy. I can't stand bureaucracy. I like freedom because it allows me to be creative in my expertise, which is engineering. And in larger organizations, you don't have that creativity. You can't create new projects and stuff like that. Not usually, right? But I don't know. Maybe I can join Netflix and be a part of the culture there. Then I could say Netflix, by the way. I work at Netflix, by the way. But no, it's I thought it was a great book, and I think for me, it clarified the type of company that I want to work for, right? At least parts of a company that I want to work for personally. And it's like the goalpost as I continue throughout my career and move through different companies. What I find acceptable versus what I don't find acceptable. And I don't think I'll ever find I was in the military, and I could never go back to that level of bureaucracy. That's nightmare to me. I already know that's a nightmare for me, so I can never go back, right? And so this is like the kind of a touchstone, or a I don't know, lighthouse, at sea that I could follow anytime I start getting whiffs of that bureaucracy when I'm in an interview with a new company or something like that, and go, okay, yeah. Not going down that road anymore. It's just a reminder that yes, this is how companies should operate. But anyway, great book, highly recommended. Next week we will be. I didn't show the last couple of times the next book coming up, so I guess next week we'll be talking about. Emma. So see you guys then.